Hi, and welcome to the Day Trading for Beginners podcast. This is episode 29, and this is a bonus episode where we're going to cover a question that came up in our community. So if you don't know, we have a community on School, the Day Trading for Beginners sort of podcast and community on that platform. The platform is School, SKOOL. You can find a link to that below in the show notes. We have something like 200 members now. Many of them are starting to have discussions. Many of them are finding accountability partners or just staying accountable with the group and posting their progress. So we're getting a little bit more discussion with that. Obviously, many group members just want to sort of be a part of the group and get access to the content and just sort of stay private. That's totally cool. But basically what we have is all the podcasts and content that I'm creating, we're putting up as courses for beginners who want to learn how to day trade and want to get on the proper steps to sort of doing it. And over time, we're going to have more content and we're going to create these steps and create an even better path for beginners to jump on when they want to become traders. Well, there was a question that came up and I answered it. And I know that other people are thinking about this question as well. So I thought I would just shoot this quick podcast for the middle of the week. And so it talked about this idea that, 90% of people are going to fail when they start day trading. And you'll see that term, 90% failure rate. You'll see it on other forums. You'll see it on, Reddit, or you'll just, do a Google search. 90% seems to come up with any sort of online venture or you're doing day trading. And I think it can discourage a lot of people. So this particular person was asking a question and I gave an answer back, and I thought I would just share it here because I know some of you that are listening, you might be wondering that as well. You might see this failure rate as 90%. You might be wondering, should I actually pursue this? Can I actually do it? So I wanted to kind of share my perspective on that failure rate. Then I'm actually going to share what ChatGPT said, and they kind of give more of a formal sort of answer to that as well. So again, the question was, if the failure rate is so high, is it worth me pursuing this and sort of, going after this goal? And, oftentimes you might get discouraged, or other people getting discouraged as well. So basically my answer was that, you never know unless you are going to try. So this failure rate is there. Can you become successful? Well, you're never really going to know unless you try. Now, in terms of, do you have something else that you can spend your time on for sure that's better? Well, probably not. If you're looking into becoming a day trader, then hopefully you're super passionate about it and you really want to do it. So the opportunity cost of your time spent studying and trying to be a day trader, hopefully there's not something else you should be doing. If you want to pursue something else, then obviously you should be doing that. So, you need to be passionate. You need to want to do this, but, are you going to waste your time studying for something that is super hard to complete? Well, first of all, I think that 90% is a little skewed, but, even if you don't become a successful trader, but you work hard, you study, you put in a ton of work, I think you're still going to be better off, unless you certainly have something else you should be doing with your time. But, when you study and you work really hard, you can use your experience of, working hard towards this goal to help you with something else you do in the future. So when you do hard things, and there's, I think there's actually sort of studies that show this, that when the body goes through something that's really hard, it actually helps you be able to do even harder things in the future. I know there's a podcast with David Goggins and the podcaster Andrew Huberman. At the beginning of 2024, they did a podcast. I would highly recommend it. Perhaps I'll link it in the show notes. Basically, doing hard things is really, really good for you. So even if you put in, a lot of work and for whatever reasons, you don't end up becoming a full-time trader, you can look at what you've done and you can sort of lean on all that work, all that studying that you've done to potentially pursue and accomplish other things in the future. So that's an important thing, I think, to keep in mind. Also, I think that trading and other, online businesses, like I mentioned, I think they're a bit skewed with this failure rate. So, sure, maybe it is 90%, but what you have to understand is that the barriers to entry are so low that anyone can attempt to become a trader. All you need to do is you deposit some funds from your bank account to your brokerage account and you buy a stock and boom, you're a trader. You have a 50% chance of being successful, on that first trade. And this leads to, false confidence. And then eventually, you continue to trade and you're going to lose your money. So what really are the risks, of actually doing this? You might, lose a couple $100 and quit. And then you are another statistic that gets added to that 90% failure rate. So low barriers to entry and sort of low risk in failure, I think, sort of inflate this number. And again, that's just my opinion. I don't really have any data on that, but I've seen that with other people that want to start affiliate marketing and start their own business. Again, low barriers to entry. Anyone could sort of start this. Therefore, more people try it without the proper education, the proper steps, and then suddenly so many people are failing. So if you kind of take this idea one step further, if you want to be a doctor, would you ever go out and read a book about heart surgery and then think that you can actually perform a successful surgery? That would never happen. And I've actually heard that example from someone else, and unfortunately I can't source the exact quote, but people watch a few videos about trading, or, you read a few textbooks on trading, and then you think you can trade the markets. And I'm sure that the failure rate in many other professions would be higher as well if they didn't have barriers to entry, like university degrees or exams and tests you need to pass, or apprenticeships and so on. So, another example, if you could read a few law books and then attempt to try a case with no risk, many people would try and many people would fail as well. So again, there's a ton of, work that's involved. Now, it's been 5 months that we're on this journey, and I can see that, you need to learn a lot. Technical analysis is a big, big subject matter. And studying just on the weekends or just at night, it's going to take you a long time to learn all the things that you need to learn to become a successful trader. And you have to do it for the most part on your own. So there's no sort of standard curriculum or exam. So that makes it difficult as well. And again, even with trading specifically, there are things that do maybe give it another layer of difficulty, like the mental side of trading and so on. But you can definitely do this. So I think the bottom line is that there's a lot of work. You need to give yourself a realistic timeline for learning and becoming successful. But don't be, in my opinion, I would not be focused on that 90% and be too discouraged from it. Because if you give it your all, I think you're going to be better off whether you become a full-time trader or not. You got to remember there's low barriers to entry with this. And, initially you might, some people aren't going to lose their whole life savings, hopefully, before they quit. So the risks really aren't that low. Many people don't spend a lot of time trying to learn to trade, so they haven't really put in a lot. So the risks, aren't that low. The barriers to entry are super low, or the risks are low. The barriers to entries are super low. Therefore, I think that 90% failure rate is slightly skewed. So again, that's just my sort of 2 cents, my opinion. Now, when I went and actually asked ChatGPT, this statistic of 90%, it's high, or what contributes to this, formal answers are going to be like lack of education and preparation. So again, that's not the fault of day trading. That's just the fault of people getting into it, maybe for the wrong reasons or without proper study and lack of education and preparation. I think that would apply to many other, ventures and professions as well. Again, there's going to be psychological challenges specifically to trading that I think are quite difficult. But that's another factor. Then they mentioned like risk management, market conditions, inadequate capital, unrealistic expectations. So again, that's probably one that contributes to this. Poor strategy implementation, cost of trading, and so on. So, there's certainly things that are going to contribute to, the difficulty of trading and that failure rate. But I think that in my mind, that whole day trading is easy to get into. Many people just attempt to do it for the aura of making quick money. Therefore, I personally think that number is a bit skewed. So that's sort of the message that I wanted to just share. If you have different opinions on this, certainly come to our group on School. Share what you think about this, but potentially if you want. Again, there's a link to join that group. Everything is free. You can find it in the show notes below. But again, I think just the closing remarks here for this would just be that if you're pursuing this and you 100% don't have something that you could be doing that's better for you and your life and your time, I think pursuing this hard task, you're going to be better off when you come out of it, whether you pursue this professionally or not. Studying, trying to do hard things, accomplishing something, whether you actually just sit down and you get through a whole textbook and you can talk about it. If you don't end up doing trading for whatever reasons, you can look back on your experience and what you've done in trying to learn this, and that's going to help you do other things. So again, you do this, you put in all this work, doesn't work out, but then maybe you look into doing some other sort of entrepreneurial goal. You can look back on what you did here and say, hey, it's probably not as hard as that. Let's do this. I can do hard things. I think that's really important. And I don't know if a lot of people really think about that, especially, if you have never sort of, pursued goals that you might find difficult. A lot of people haven't. A lot of people sort of just, do the 9-to-5 thing and they're sort of just on the spinning wheel. But get off that wheel, do something hard. I think you're going to be better off whether you become successful or not. So thanks so much for listening. I wanted to just share that came up. Again, our group on School, it's growing quite nicely now. We've got a few hundred members. More people are sharing their opinions and they're introducing themselves. They're being accountable to the group. And I think that's going to help them with this journey. And over time, this is going to be a really good resource because many of the things that are discussed here, the common questions, it's going to be easily searched on our platform on School. So again, come join us there. I hope you found this useful and I will talk to you in the next episode.